With edits.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Thanks for being here for the last all-college meeting of the school year. Wow. Boy, gosh. So we're going to get right into the faculty presentation and do announcements at the end, except for Stephen thought of something that we want to put into place, so he's going to tell you about it.
Yeah, finally, towards the end of the year, I came up with a brilliant idea. We're doing some great things at this college, day in and day out, and individually. We do things to make other people's jobs easier, or we help students just in passing sometimes, but we don't celebrate enough those little things that happen every day. And so I know we talked about this last year or earlier this year, but I'm asking that we reinstate kudos. So I am going to pass these out. Jot down, someone's name. I just saw that you helped a student on the sidewalk. That's great. Thanks for getting my paycheck out in time. Whatever it is, whether it's little or large, it's time that we celebrate all the wonderful things that happen at this college every day. And so where I'm going to pass these out in future meetings next year, they'll be stacked up at the front table. So fill it out, hand it to me, hand it to the president, hand it to member. And if we have time, we are going to read them out loud. If we don't have time or the person's not here, we'll make sure that they are delivered.
And you don't have to fill it out, just if you have something that you want to, you can hang on to it.
And I have lots, so if you have more than one, kudos, yeah, please do.
Okay, so then we're going to turn it over to our esteemed faculty members who are going to take us through the lesson, right?
Yeah. First go to them and then.
Yeah, we're very
backwards.
very fortunate that we have an opportunity to kind of look at the whole idea of cultural intelligence today and what that really entails. But we're also going to talk about how this relates and interfaces with the whole idea of assessment. And we want to go ahead and take a couple of minutes to approach this in an unusual way. Years ago, there was the whole idea of IQ, which is intelligence quotient. And then we have a number of years more recently, we've had EQ, which is emotional quotient. And then we have now, more recently, cultural quotient or a cultural intelligence quotient. And today we're going to be focusing in on the whole idea of cultural intelligence, and then with regard to integrating cultural competence with regard to assessments. And we want to go ahead and talk about exactly what this CQ actually entails. It's the capacity to function effectively across various cultural contexts, the national, the ethnic, the organizational, and generational. And not only do we have the diversity issues there, but we also have the corporate culture issues that happen on campus with that. And then we also have the idea of generational, different kinds of things that are going on in terms of that. And we have all of these represented on our campus, of course, and we want to make sure that we're efficient in trying to help service students. Then with regard to today's question, what's the difference between individuals that succeed in today's globalized, multicultural world and those that fail? With regard to the globalized, multicultural world that we live in, we have people who are not as successful. We have people who are extremely successful. And there's a continuum in between them. The good thing about this is that there's wonderful news with regard to cultural intelligence. And that is a person, wherever they are on the continuum, can go ahead and improve their capability. And that's one of the great pieces of information that we've been able to learn about. And there was a cultural intelligence seminar that actually delved into the fact that this is statistically verifiable. Some of the information I'll share with you about how to improve your cultural intelligence really is academically verified in terms of statistics. And they've been able to determine that there are 4 key areas that all of us can work on to be able to improve. Now, I'll share with you a little bit of background that I have here with regard to LA High School. This is my graduating high school class, and you'll see there that it was the equivalent of a model United Nations. Now we have individuals there, they're about 60% African-American students, we had 20% bilingual Spanish-English, and we were also fortunate to have a lot of Asian students there, about 15%, and then 15% white. Now, in this environment, though, everybody was getting along, and it was really quite a learning experience for me. Also, more recently, since 2003, my wife and I 9 times have ventured overseas. We've taught 5 times in Kazakhstan, Central Asia, which is right below Siberia there, a large country. It's the 9th largest in the world. We've also taught in South Korea 2 years, and then we had the opportunity to be in China last for the past 2 years, and then we're possibly going back here in the future again. So we've had the opportunity to travel internationally. So cultural intelligence is something that I have an inclination toward learning more about. And so when I started to see how this could be organized in a fashion that could help our campus, that was something I was very interested in. Now, I'm going to go ahead and bring Nance up to talk a little bit about this whole idea of the cultural intelligence open.
Okay. So our VCC mission statement, Barstow Community College is an accredited open access institution of higher learning committed to providing our students, community, and military population with the educational tools to achieve personal goals and professional growth. To accomplish this, the college offers traditional and distant education courses, programs, and pathways designed to enhance student success, leadership development, and career opportunities, enabling all in the community to thrive in a changing global society. So Barstow Community College's core competencies are communication, critical thinking, and global awareness, personal and professional growth. So we look at human nature. We're at the top of the iceberg, all right? We bring in culture, cultural artifact systems. For those of you, it's like food and holidays. Typically, that's about where most people are at. They might know a little bit about what your culture celebrates. They may know about some of the foods that your culture may eat or provide. We have values and assumptions, right? However, we really don't get into the values and assumptions of culture, nor do we get into the individual personality. This is where it becomes extremely important to understand not just our students, but to understand our colleagues as well. We need to learn more about the different cultures that are represented here at our college in order to make it more cohesive, in order to make it more successful for our students. So the results of a high CQ, adapting cross-culturally, understanding what is politically correct or not, understanding what because we do know that many cultures, such as Asian cultures, they don't necessarily make eye contact with you because they see that as a sign of disrespect. Okay, so we have to understand that. We need to be able to reach out to our students. We need to, again, understand what is successful for them, or to make it successful to make them feel accepted into the classroom. We need to look at career satisfaction. We need to help guide them, nurture them, find out what their needs are, where they're really coming from. And we need to look at student success and retention. Now, based on IEBC, many students drop out at 30 units. They didn't really give us a reasoning why, and we don't really know what our statistics are here at the college. That wasn't something that we looked at. So staff and faculty in CQ, classrooms are increasingly filled with students from different backgrounds who need to be prepared for life in our globalized world. And now Dennis is going to take over again.
I'll just talk a little bit about the whole idea of how a person can improve their CQ. And there actually are 4 CQ capabilities that are out there. And these are the ones that were studied academically, but they include drive. They also include knowledge, strategy, and action. Now, with regard to the whole idea of drive, you've got some interesting things that are happening here in this area, and they happen to be the idea of intrinsic or self-motivation. You have extrinsic motivation, which would be kinds of things that are outside of us. And then you also have the ability with regard to self-efficacy that deals with the confidence level a person has when dealing with people cross-culturally. And if we put these together, let's just realize some people are very, very highly motivated, just personally. But then they can also be super motivated with regard to trying to make sure that they're trying to get ahead because of a career opportunity for them. They may get a promotion, so that would be external. And then you also have the additional amount of a person's confidence there that would fit into this. But if you put all of those three together, they can be at varying amounts in any individual. So a person can have real high motivation individually, but they also may be very motivated in terms of career opportunity too, so they kind of work together. Now, with regard to knowledge, there are a lot of areas of knowledge that can be very specific knowledge, and we're actually passing out some material here that's going to have you actually test these in a way, just go ahead and ask and get some information from you. Let's say, for example, a person is very high in knowledge. Now, with regard to the educational area, some people are really excellent in this arena. They know a lot about what's going on cross-culturally and have knowledge in the educational area. But you also have people who've picked up values and norms. Sometimes it's a living experience that they've had or whatever. And then you also have sociolinguistic, where the society influences the language. They become familiar with that. And then also leadership. So we have leaders who are part of our leadership status here within the campus who have titles, but we also have a lot of times small groups that work together, and those small groups have leadership roles that people assume. And so there are sometimes informal leaders, formal leaders, and all of those kinds of things can kind of give us an idea if we're talking about even corporate culture here on our campus to make sure that we all efficiently work together. Then with regard to strategy, I liken strategy to the idea of the strategic planning process. We just had people here last month with regard to the all college meeting, and they focused in on the idea of the pre-planning process, gathering and utilization of information here. Then, as we go through, there's going to be an awareness checking process to see how we're doing as we go through it. And then at the end, there's going to be the opportunity to reflect upon it and look back and say, wow, how did we do in terms of checking, and was there a debrief at the end? Well, the same is true with the opportunities that we have cross-culturally on our campus. And the idea that we can go ahead and think in advance, if we're going to be dealing with someone who's from a different background or culture, we can go ahead and also be aware in advance, but then we can start, as we're there in the situation, say, how are we doing in this, and adapt if we need to, and then finally, with regard to the conclusion, to look back at it and have a debrief, even with ourselves, even for a moment or two, to say, how did that go, and can I do better the next time? Okay. Then you have the idea here of the last one has to do more with action, and it's really the adaptability and flexibility in terms of our communication, the idea of speech acts, but also two other areas that really manifest themselves, and that is the verbal and the nonverbal communication skills that are being manifested there. And are we effective, and can we go ahead and do them? But now realize, again, these all work together interchangeably. Some people are stronger in one area and in another area. Others will have the things there that they can go ahead and bring to the table there. So as we all consider this, it kind of ends up being very effective as we see, wow, we can improve in one area or the other. And then I'm going to go ahead now, and you have the sheets, and I'm going to ask, we have kind of a distribution issue, but we can go ahead and do this. I'm going to have, there's a lot of people in the back section, the back three rows there. I'm going to go ahead and have them, a lot of the people in the back three rows. Okay, the people who are in the gallery up there. Okay, would you please do me a favor? You might have to move around a little bit. But would you do me a favor and discuss, that's the first one there with regard to drive, discuss the aspects of motivation that will allow a person to succeed cross-culturally. You want to look at the intrinsic, the extrinsic, and you also want to look at your confidence in terms of working with other folks. So try to move a little closer there for this short exercise. It'll be about 5 minutes or so, and we'll get you going. The next group, I'm going to go ahead and have everybody in this side here, talk about knowledge that you have. What kind of knowledge do you have and what kinds of things that you've got there in terms of background and experience that would be already in your life experience that would help you better allow you to deal cross-culturally and interculturally. And then with regard to the last three rows there, I'd like you to go ahead and deal with strategy, and that has to do with the plan. Do you plan before? Do you have an idea of awareness as you're in it? And then you kind of look at it after the fact. And then this group up here, and the small group there, with regard to the idea of action. If you would just go ahead and talk about how you are in terms of verbal skills or nonverbal skills to communicate with others from other cultures. And then also this whole idea of, are you comfortable being around others who speak foreign languages in your presence without your knowing the language? So fair enough. 1, 2, 3, ready, begin, go ahead and begin. So we're gonna let you talk for 5 minutes. You might have to move. I think you may want to move up a little bit to that group there, join them. You're up in this group. Come, ladies, come up here. You're in the first three.
We're in the three.
First three. Come up to this area here. Come on, get in there.
All right.
Sorry?
Yeah, that's.
We're knowledge.
All right, so let me.
I've spent it like 3 times now.
Well, I'm intimate with what's up on the street, it's different right now. I was married to a Chinese.
You're doing part of the.
Oh,
You know, I'm just left out. You know, are the managers.
And what do you bring to the table? What kind of knowledge do you have?
I kind of know what they're talking about. But I know.
And they're very reserved and very shy and so getting them to say because it's disrespectful.
Yes, right. The universal sign, but everybody. That's got what that or that I'm actually getting. Because sometimes they're sort of very sad.
we all know our body's very bad. Unfortunately, I know.
That's my fault.
Difficult at sometimes, when they come in and they
So our two questions are right there.
Even with, It's still kind of hard because you gotta like, you're trying to talk.
So whatever comes out, comes out, and whatever doesn't, doesn't. All right.
There too, that's always been a situation. It's like, well, we want to work together.
The other one is.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they could read our lips, do the mask.
Yeah, yeah, we've done that as well, yeah.
Well, now that does happen.
Okay, folks, I'm gonna ask you to go ahead and summarize here. Can somebody summarize out of each area? I've got really two areas here. I've got the area in the back there, way in the back. I've got the area here in the back. I've got this area, I've got that area, this area. So can we go ahead and get some summaries there of some of the discussion that you've had to share with everyone there? And I'm gonna just bring this around. Who would like to go ahead and share out a little bit of this area here? They're saying. Hello. You just talked about other cross-cultural things.
We were talking about just learning about the people. We talked about the classroom, knowing about other people's cultures. We talked about making assumptions sometimes about cultures that might not be true because cultures have subcultures also. So it's a learning process even for the person who's trying to understand others around.
Great point. Thank you so much. How about somebody in this larger area here, or were there really some subgroups here? Hey, you're closest here.
So we were just talking about the different kind of cultures, subcultures. I was explaining that I was from the Central and South American culture, and living in Southern California, you're exposed to many different groups, but people sort of just pigeonhole everybody into one group. They don't realize the differences and nuances. Also, we were talking about being from different states and different areas and coming here and being exposed to other cultures. And finally, sometimes when people travel to other countries, they don't get exposed to much other cultures because of how much American culture is actually in other countries.
Thank you so much. Now go to this group here. Who would like to say that?
We talked about the different barriers, especially with the Asian community, about how the way they perceive things to be as far as respect and disrespect, and getting them to open up and talk a little bit more by asking the right questions to get them to say what they need or what they don't understand so that we can clarify for them.
Some cultures are just more introverted than others. Thanks for that point. That was great. Then with regard to this group back here, is this the strategy group? Okay.
Thank you very much. We discussed that there's got to be a certain degree of universality of politeness before you get to know people. And before that, we should probably do our homework to understand other cultures. We cited the example of, okay, you meet someone from Malaya, and you may think that she's Chinese. Well, before you get to talking and saying, oh, ni hao ma, something like that, in Mandarin, you're probably going to want to know where they're from, or at least get to talking to them. But before that, you need to do your homework. So I think that's a way you kind of bridge those gaps.
Wonderful, thank you. Bridging the gaps, that's right.
We had our question was about the use of verbal skills and nonverbal skills, and we all agreed that yes, we use a combination of that to confirm understanding, whether we're talking with our hands, pointing at something, to make sure that both parties are talking about the same thing. And the other question was, talk about how comfortable it is to be around others who are not, who are speaking a different language in your presence without including you, and we determined that as long as they're not pointing and laughing at us, we don't mind.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of those things, because it really does give us a perspective that's a different worldview than a lot of us think about.
So our next steps. Educational Testing Services arrives at their standardized test questions. At ETS, cultural awareness impacts the crafting of test questions. At VCC, cultural awareness can assure faculty members examination questions are as fair as possible. Find a word that matches the meaning of the word field as used in the following sentence. He has worked in the field of accounting for many years. A, the woman worked hard every day in the field. B, there were many players on the football field. C, his field of vision was obstructed by a pillar. D, the coursework had prepared her to work in the medical field. And E, millions of people visit the battlefield memorial every year. So you can take one word and it can mean a multitude of things. So yesterday when we were reviewing the PowerPoint and talking, Beverly had reference to field. Oh, they're out in the field. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, what field do you mean? And she was referencing to the nursing field, about assignments and courses that need to be taken. Well, when she mentioned field, I reflected back on my grandfather out working the field with crops and plowing, growing up, mending fences out in the field, bringing in the cattle. I mean, those are the things, so that was my relationship when working in the field. So when we have our students come into the classroom and we start talking about simple things as field, we need to really understand what their personal, not necessarily understand their personal experiences, but realize that they come from a variety of experiences. And so their understanding of field and my understanding of field may be totally different. And I know that, and I'm sure many of you already do this and are even better at it than I am, but I relate a lot of the things that I'm teaching. I try to relate down to what their interests are in the classroom. So I have students who are softball players, I have students who are basketball players, I have students who are actually going into the early childhood field, so it's not necessarily a transfer class that they're taking. But I try to set up examples and scenarios of what the content is that I'm teaching that they can each relate to, because they may not have that personal experience in certain areas. So that's just a thought. So here is a website that is pretty interesting that we're going to take you to. And we are going to plug in, once we get there, at the very top right-hand corner, it's called onetonline.org. And we're going to plug in registered nurses, right, or nurses. And then we're going to go down to summary. And we're going to click on registered nurses. And we're going to scroll down. And we're going to look at some of the things that students need to know to become a nurse. Under knowledge, they need to have psychology. And basically, pretty much if you are here in, at least in the United States, you need to have English language, all right, or an understanding of the English language. We look at the skills. They need to have active listening. They need to have speaking. We go down to abilities. They need to have oral comprehension, oral expression, problem sensitivity, deductive and inductive reasoning. That's just to give you a brief synopsis of some of the things that a registered nurse needs to have. Those are just very few. So does someone want to tell us another career? Any career?
Animal control.
Animal control, animal controller.
Dog catcher.
Okay, so animal control workers.
Slaughterers and meat packers.
Let's scroll down. Oops, to knowledge. So they'll need to have the English language, they need to have education and training, they need to have customer and personal service, I didn't need to jump. Their skills, they need to have active listening, they need to have, critical something, speech up more. Critical thinking, they need to be able to have complex problem solving, they have to have judgment and decision making. Abilities, they need to have oral comprehension, oral expression, problem sensitivity, inductive reasoning. Sound familiar?
Helps if they run fast too.
Many, and run fast according to Chris. But many of the skills and the knowledge and the tools are very similar to that of becoming a registered nurse. So what we're doing here at the college and following the BCC core competencies, we are preparing our students to have that broader spectrum of knowledge. We look at student retention. By the end of the semester, we would like for you, and we're going to have you guys just very briefly in your little groups, because we're running out of time already, talk about the top 5 things that faculty and staff can do to help our students stick it out for the next 2.5 weeks and not disappear. And then also 5 ways to encourage them to come back this summer or fall and not leave BCC entirely. Okay, so if you guys can just kind of talk a little bit amongst yourselves, and then we'll throw out some ideas afterwards. We'll give you like 2 minutes, so it's really fast.
I know it's having to graduation. Seeing other students graduate, that's something that always kind of stuck with me. I was used to even when I need to work, so. And it's like, man, it's like you're almost there, like. Finish down, yeah. You know, and then enjoy your summer. There, the beaches, there's volleyball and whatnot. We usually have meetings behind the students tend to come back.
Well, I'm under pressure.
Are you going to get them to come back?
Like, everybody-
I didn't make them aware of something.
Yeah.
And then to that,
I know I'm giving the mic to back here. Go ahead.
We were just talking about, now, at this point in time, it's kind of late, but really, the teachers are saying that you should build that relationship with your students. That way, if they are struggling, they can come to you and say, hey, I'm struggling, I need this, I need this. And then we were speaking about staff, how it's just positive reinforcement, asking students how they're doing, if they need help, if they're struggling, take them to and introduce them. And also, we don't give them the calendar weeks. You got 2.5 weeks left in the semester. No, it's 3 class meetings or 4 class meetings. You have 2 class meetings left, not 2 weeks.
Good point. Okay, how about this group? Who wants to sound out here?
The number one thing that our group came up with, feed them. There might be granola bars in a department that students can come by and get a snack, or munchies for sale, or the different activities that we have where they can get food, feed them and they will come.
They keep them in school because we feed them. That's a new message for all the leadership here. Faculty will come back too.
Well, we're getting ready to approach graduation, so one of our ideas was have them attend graduation. Even if they're not graduating, they probably know somebody who is, and I feel like that's a good visual for them to keep moving forward and having them come back in the fall.
Great idea, great idea.
Oh, that's right.
He's gonna have
Okay, thank you. We came up with goals, keeping them on goals, and also, and this worked for me as well, the projects. They have some interesting projects coming out at the end, so that kind of keeps them engaged and motivate.
motivation is key.
We just kind of came up with a couple things, but mostly about reminding them about accountability to themselves, their peers, their families, and just being encouraging that they made it this far, you know, that 2 weeks out, that's nothing compared to what they've already done, so.
Wonderful, that's great. So there are just a few last slides, and we want to go ahead and just affirm all of you. Thank you for listening, and hopefully you're going to be engaged in cultural intelligence and assessment.
So fall of 2016, student retention, calling every student by name, getting to know your students, building that relationship, meeting with every student within the first 3 weeks of class, outside of the class, have them come visit you in your office hours, make an appointment, say, you know, I just want to talk to you, just want to make sure we're on target. I know this is just the beginning of the year, but there's many things, blah, 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 whatever it might be that pertains to you and your student. And I think most importantly is to help every student feel that a person on campus cares about them. We each can reflect back and think of that one teacher or that one person who really reached out to us and made a difference through encouragement to keep it going. Maybe they were your mentor, but they're the ones. So we in turn give it forward. So we're going to give it forward this coming year. I'm losing my voice, and reach out to all of our children. I saw that. We're done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what they said we're gonna do in the fall of 16? What?
Meet with each student,
Meet with each student
In the first
within
3
the first 3 weeks,
learn their name.
learn their names, basically develop relationships, right? Then it makes it a lot more difficult for someone to quit. And the last thing we do is want them, after they've made the effort to get here, the last thing we do is want them to quit, right? So now you're in for a real treat again. Thank you, faculty, for presenting cultural intelligence. But you're in for another real treat from our leadership class. And as you watch them, think about, we have another leadership class starting in the fall, and our applications are going to be coming out real soon. Think about, if you haven't already participating in the Leadership Academy. It's faculty, staff, and administration. And after this next year, we're going to go on a 2-year annual cycle instead of every year. So this next year is the last leadership class until 2 years from next year. I don't know dates, so come on up, leadership class.
So this is our graduating class of 2016 Leadership Academy. And why did we join Leadership Academy? Why did we apply? Some of us did so because we want to learn about leadership. Some of us did so because we wanted to interact with each other, different departments on campus. And some of us did so because we recognized that the sign of a good leader is sometimes you're a good follower and you get in there and participate. So we're going to introduce ourselves. I'm Terry Walker, and in the Maintenance and Operations Department.
Samara Kabir, I'm the Student Services Advisor.
Hey, Babood, I'm, what was that? An English instructor.
Carol Blake, Cosmetology Department.
Melissa Mayo, Student Success and Equity.
I'm Morgan Bossack, I'm in IT.
And I'm Jose Hernandez, I work in admissions. By the way, they say every class has a clown.
I know, love you, sir.
When we were all selected to join the President's Leadership Academy for this year, our expectations were somewhat different from what we actually learned. While some of us knew what to expect from the previous class, most of us were in for a surprise. Some believed that the Leadership Academy was about learning different management styles and techniques. Others believed that the academy was going to be focused on theory, stuffy psychology, a lot of presentation, and little, if any, real-life experiences. In other words, boring. Some thought the academy was a way to build relationships with others on campus or increase teamwork among the different levels of organizations. A few thought the academy is going to involve a lot of work, assignments, reading, and backbreaking work, while some of us thought it was going to be all fun, pizza, Coke, and bragging to others and to the president about ourselves and our amazing class achievements. A couple of us worked in isolation on campus and wanted an opportunity to become known by the others and to see if what they hear about us is true. What we actually learned was much more than any of us initially expected.
Give her a hand. Thank you. Now I'm going to talk about what we actually learned in the Leadership Academy. The things we actually learned in the President's Leadership Academy exceeded the expectations we had when we first took the plunge. We all learned what it means to be a real effective leader, how to combine our personal strengths with the strengths of those around us to better serve the whole, and how important each person's functions are to our success and the success of the organization. Many of us had a vague idea about what other departments on campus do, but we now know how much they really do and how it affects us all. We basically know each other now on a level that goes beyond the routine, shallow exchange of greetings at meetings, or a need for a signature, a key, or a computer fix. By learning about our own personalities and how different we all are, we understood that true leadership is dynamic, that no one set formula can be applied rigidly across the board. We all have to make personal adjustments and correlate our strengths and weaknesses with others we interact with to build solid, productive relationships. From our guest speakers, we learned so much about managing priorities, finding consensus, building diverse, effective teams, and overcoming challenges and difficulties. Lastly, we learned about Barstow as a community, the people who serve here, the people we are serving, the realities we all live with, and the common goals we all must work toward. I'm not sure what I was thinking when I volunteered to summarize the things we've learned here, because it was really so much more than I could say in a few words. Thank you.
my assignment is to tell the activities that we did. So prior to the Leadership Academy, we had all taken assessment, it's a management profile, and we assessed ourselves, and it was called the DISC, and it was dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientious. And so right off the bat, we all learned who was direct and strong-willed, and we learned, yeah, we did what we were up against over the next 9 months. We were influenced, who was outgoing, who was enthusiastic, steadiness, who was even-tempered, who was patient, who was accommodating, and we learned conscientious, who the conscientious ones, which were the analytical and more research. And so we had a really good time for our 9 months. One of the first events that we did, or activities we did, was we went to State Street and we learned the electrical, automotive, photography, and welding, and that's where I found out that welding is not my gift. The city, then we went to the city. The next week after that, we met Kurt Mitchell and Gaither. Thank you. I couldn't say his last name, so I didn't want to try. So they were the city managers, and we learned a lot with the projects that are upcoming in Barstow. There is more going on than people see. There's a lot more going on in Barstow. So just be encouraged that our town is not what it seems. People are working behind the scenes and doing a really good job. After that was the funnest event for me because I'm have a lot of energy. So we got to go on a scavenger hunt. We had a list of 20 places, at least 20, I don't even know how many we wanted, places that we needed to go. And it was Samara, Morgan, and I, and we had a blast. Let's see what we did. Oh, we had to take pictures, and Samara was really bossy. She's like, get over there, get over there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I said, you get over there. No, you get over there. I was like, oh my gosh, you're so bossy. And he was a former police officer. So he was going to drive really fast. So we didn't get a ticket. We're lucky we didn't get a wreck. We're lucky we didn't get a ticket. So. We already had that plan, yes. We did have that plan. That was pretty hilarious. So yeah, that was fun for me. And then we had to do a presentation. They made us a presentation, and it was really fun. And the next thing after that, we went to the Marine base, and then we met the lieutenant commander, who was really personable, more personable than you would think. And then we went to Fort Irwin. We met the colonel out there. And we learned about all the things that went on out at Fort Irwin. I had been here for 30 years and never went out there, never been out to Fort Irwin. So that was nice for me to go out there and see. There's a whole world out there. The Barstow Community College campus is there. And so it was neat. It was a good experience for me. So, yeah, anyways. And then the speakers within the college, it was really neat. We had, understanding roles of current leaders of the BCC constituency groups, the Board of Trustees, the Foundation Board, Academic Senate, Management Team, BCFA, CSEA, AST. And I just wanted to tell you guys, the students on the AST were really inspirational to me. They came to be, one of them is the president, or the former president, I don't know, he came his Wayne. And the other one was Eduardo. And they were very inspiring to me. Eduardo comes from Spain, and he loved Barstow. And he came here to get scholarships to play sports, basketball. I believe it was basketball was his leading sport. And when he got here, they told him that if he was on AST, that he could get more scholarships, and he did. So I was really inspired by him in that. So that's some of the activities that we did, and it was really a blast. So it was nice to see you all today.
Sorry, I'm kind of the short one. Okay. So Carol talked about how we went out to Fort Irwin in the Marine Corps base, and on the way there and back, we actually had a discussion about the reading that we had assigned, which was the book, The Multiplier Effect. So the book kind of gave us an insight into two different types of leaders, diminishers and multipliers. So diminishers they don't train anybody. They drain intelligence, energy, and the capability from people around them, while multipliers do the opposite by amplifying the smarts and capabilities of the people that they work with.
A leader with a multiplier mindset understands that people are smart, intelligence is dynamic, and curiosity sparks that intelligence. So reading The Multiplier Effect allowed us to learn more about ourselves and to take into account that at times we can be accidental diminishers. The book included engaging stories about both leadership styles and provided experiments so we could pursue becoming better multipliers. So of course, no one's a perfect leader, but the readings in The Multiplier Effect, we learn how to be more effective in dealing with people who have different leadership styles and personalities.
Well, my part in our presentation is talking about the class lectures, and if it wasn't for Abe and his beer and alcohol, he wouldn't survive after the lectures. So, over 8 sessions that we attended from September 25th to April 22nd, the Leadership Academy has had the privilege of hearing from many different people and from many different organizations. The leaders and commanders of those various organizations bringing with them their personal philosophies, their leadership, and their team building experiences. Some of the class lectures that we have been presented to us were things within the college, such as the Board of Trustees, Dr. Thomas, CTE, Student Services, Administrative Services, the Public Information Officer, Academic Affairs, Fort Irwin's college leadership, and outside the college, we had Barstow City Hall, such as the mayor, and a number of the people from there. We had Region 9 CEOs, such as the presidents of other colleges and the vice chancellors of other colleges. We had the MCLB commander, we had the Fort Irwin Garrison commander, we had the Fort Irwin Education Leadership, we had the K-12 Education, Military Affairs, Small Business and Nonprofits, Economic Development, Faith-Based Community, Barstow Hospital. And as I've read some of these, I may have missed 1 or 2, but they were all insightful in giving us a lot of their information, and we were grateful for their presence. Thank you.
So what we didn't know when we applied is, of course, after last year's Academy, the great outreach recruitment video they made, we were going to have to come up with our class project. So we started thinking about that, and I was like, we need to do this. And then, I got outvoted. So, but the whole point is, we have people up here that have been working for the college for more than 15 years, and some that are less than 2 years, 3 years. And the overriding thing that we came up with was, there really is no employee handbook. There is no employee orientation, and it kind of led back to a discussion I had with somebody that was recently hired, like, where's the nearest watering hole? How do I get my office key? So we decided as a group that we were going to come up with an employee handbook for all constituency groups, such as the faculty, the staff, and students. One resource that anyone can use, and then over the summer, we're going to put it on hopefully get it into our Comevo, so a new hire can say to the computer, I can get a handbook in paper, take it home, and get a dog chew on it, or sit at the computer and work through it, so you get all the information that you could possibly need when you first start with the school. So for the next process is we need to meet with Clint, kind of vet it through his department, and then we got to go through the participatory governance issues, I say problems, but issues, so that way we get it vetted across the campus and then present it to the Board of Trustees as an informational item. That's the goal. All of you are invited to our graduation on the 13th at 1 o'clock. I believe it will be in here. You can come and have some cupcakes and all kinds of other good stuff with us. We really did have a great time. I speak for all the entire group. It was a really good time. And we have a small video to show you, it's very short, that will kind of sum everything up for you.
It's just glaring.
We got a bad idea like that.
Wow, nice job. So the leadership class will be presenting this at the board meeting in May. And then they will also have their graduation ceremony in here at 1 o'clock on the 13th. So I hope you'll all be here to help honor them and bring some other people as they complete their Leadership Academy. So nice job, class. They just did a wonderful job throughout the whole year. And now we just have a couple of announcements from Chris.
So I just wanted to point out that on our website, we've been doing a pretty good job lately of keeping up on the news and events calendar. If you look on there, you can see most of the events, at least the student events, throughout the entire month. So go there and look there. I'm not going to announce all of the events, but I wanted to hit a few highlights for everybody. Number one, we have our Cinco de Mayo celebration on Thursday at 11:30. Everyone's invited, and there is lunch being provided. I think it's $3 if you don't have an activity sticker, or $2 if you do. Then on May 5th, in addition to Cinco de Mayo, we also have the National Day of Prayer that's happening here in the Performing Arts Center. Everyone's invited, and it's free of charge. We also have the Fort Irwin graduation that evening, though. So if you're planning to go out to the fort, that's going to be at 6 o'clock on May 5th. Then on May 6th, we have Honors Day, which is going to be here in the PAC, and it starts at 5 o'clock. Our athletic awards ceremony and the signing of letters of intent is going to be happening on May 19th at 3 o'clock here in the PAC again. And then commencement, of course, is on May 20th at 3 o'clock.
What time?
3 o'clock.
I'm sorry, one again?
3 o'clock. Thank you. So, and everyone is invited to attend that as well.
Invited?
Forcefully invited, mandatorily invited. It's like an ice cream soda. So, that's it.
So, I just want to thank everybody. This year went really fast and a lot went on, and faculty, thank you for the great job you've done with our students in the classroom. Management and classified staff, thank you for the work you've done outside the classroom to help make sure that everything goes smoothly inside the classroom. And then counselors, I want to recognize the counselors, and I'm doing the first kudo. And that is because last year we had about 200 220 graduates, something like that, 270. And this year we have, give me the sign again, 425 or something like that. You know, so, and a lot of that is, I know that the faculty did the job of helping, you know, the students learn what they needed to learn to pass their classes. But in the past, a lot of them just haven't applied, and there was a real concerted effort in student services under the leadership of Dr. Gadboy to increase those numbers, and you did a great job, so thank you.
Well, it is 1 o'clock straight up, I believe, or 1:02, so hand them to me on your way out, and I will make sure that the recipients get them. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. See you at the events.
Shall I hit stop?
Yes.